The Pentagon's patience with Canada is over, even if still coded in the language of diplomacy. Senior officials telling journalists on background the Canadian government's delays and lack of transparency around its ongoing F-35 review are just one example of the prioritization of politics over our shared responsibility for North America's defense. In short, they'd prefer Canada buy the planned order of 88 sophisticated fighter jets from the U.S. We're committed to 30 already, but the Carney government launched a review more than a year ago. It's done. But amid a trade war, no decision on the F-35s has been made. Instead, for months, the government has mulled buying Swedish Gripen combat aircraft. The Swedes promise they'd build them in Canada. The Pentagon wants a decision to be made soon.
Imagine a big fight over fighter jets that changes everything for North American safety. Canada wants to build its own planes to create local jobs and keep its money close to home. But their big neighbor is furious because they want everyone flying the same exact stealth jet. This choice could give Canada total control over its own skies, but it leaves the other side feeling completely left out. That is the high-stakes reality unfolding right now. Behind the closed doors of defense procurement, a major rift has opened up between Ottawa and Washington. It is a quiet war over sovereignty, technology, and economic control. The United States expects absolute compliance when it comes to continental defense, but America is hitting a wall with Canada. To understand why this is a massive win for Canada and a strategic nightmare for the Pentagon, we have to look past the official press releases. We need to examine what is actually happening on the ground. Canada is using a multi-billion-dollar military loophole to protect its own economy, and the Pentagon is completely losing its patience. For a long time, the plan seemed set in stone. Canada was on track to fully replace its aging fleet of CF-18 Hornet fighters with the American-made Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II. The F-35 is a fifth-generation stealth fighter, a flying supercomputer designed to integrate seamlessly into the cross-border defense system known as NORAD. The United States wants every single partner country flying the exact same jet. Why? Because common platforms mean American defense contractors control the supply chains, the software updates, and the maintenance frameworks. But then, Ottawa did something that caught Washington completely off guard. The Canadian government paused the deal. They launched a massive, sweeping review of the entire contract. Even worse for the Pentagon, Canadian officials openly started mulling over an entirely different option, the Saab Gripen, a fourth-generation combat aircraft built by Sweden. This review has dragged on, and the Pentagon is signaling that its patience is officially over. Senior American defense officials have begun telling journalists on background that Ottawa is prioritizing domestic politics over shared continental defense. But from a Canadian perspective, this delay is a brilliant economic strategy. Sweden made an incredible offer to secure the deal. They promised that if Canada chooses the Gripen, the aircraft will be built directly on Canadian soil. This means billions of dollars flowing right into local manufacturing, high-tech engineering sectors, and domestic aerospace firms. If Canada buys the F-35, the vast majority of that wealth leaves the country and heads straight to Lockheed Martin factories in the United States. By dragging out the decision, Canada is using its military procurement budget as a massive bargaining chip in ongoing trade negotiations with Washington. The primary argument coming out of Washington is a concept called interoperability. In the world of modern coalition warfare, your equipment has to talk to your allies' equipment. The United States Air Force operates on a massive scale, utilizing advanced sensor networks and stealth capabilities. The top commander at NORAD, a United States Air Force general, recently went on the record to emphasize this exact point. He made it clear that the strength of continental defense relies entirely on the ability to interchange aircraft across the border or fly them together in the exact same formation to execute a mission. This is where the technological divide turns into a geopolitical weapon. The F-35 utilizes an ultra-classified data architecture called MADL, which allows stealth jets to pass radar data, target tracks, and threat assessments to one another instantly, without revealing their positions. The Swedish Gripen uses a completely different European-designed software system. If Canada operates a Swedish jet, it creates a massive data-sharing hurdle right in the middle of North American airspace. The Pentagon has even hinted that it might hold a symbolic red card over Canada, refusing to allow highly classified American sensor networks to integrate with a foreign, non-American platform. For the United States, this breaks their vision of a unified American-controlled sky. For Canada, however, it prevents their military from becoming completely dependent on Washington's software keys. To fully understand the gamble Canada is making, we have to look at the differences between these two aircraft platforms. The F-35 is a fifth-generation fighter. That means stealth is baked directly into the shape of the airframe. Its radar cross-section is tiny, making it nearly invisible to long-range surface-to-air missile systems. More importantly, its sensor suite takes in data from satellites, ground radar, and other aircraft, fusing it into a single, perfect picture for the pilot. The NORAD command team openly admits that during a major conflict or wartime contingency operation, the F-35's advanced radar and sensor capabilities make it entirely superior to anything else in the sky. The Swedish Gripen, by contrast, is a fourth-generation fighter. It is incredibly agile, highly reliable, and far cheaper to operate per hour than the F-35. However, it completely lacks stealth. It cannot slip through advanced air defense networks undetected. But here is the secret that Canadian planners know. For the day-to-day mission of NORAD, stealth is completely unnecessary. The primary job of a fighter jet patrolling northern Canada is to intercept foreign bombers or maritime patrol planes that approach North American airspace. When you're intercepting a target, you want to be seen. You want to fly up next to them, flash your wings, and turn them around. NORAD commanders themselves acknowledge that for day-to-day operations, a fourth-generation jet performs just as well as an expensive fifth-generation stealth fighter. Canada is asking a very logical question. Why pay a massive premium for American stealth technology when a Swedish jet can handle the actual daily mission while creating thousands of local jobs? While the economic advantages of the Swedish option look great on paper for Ottawa, the Canadian military is facing a brutal internal crisis that makes this entire situation much more complicated. This is the resource bill. The Royal Canadian Air Force is currently facing severe staffing shortages. Official internal audits show that the military is facing a 20% shortage in the specialized technicians who maintain and fix fighter jets. Even worse, they are facing up to a 33% shortage of active pilots. Operating a modern fighter force requires highly specific, platform-dependent training. A technician trained to fix the advanced stealth coatings and complex electronics of an F-35 cannot easily switch over to work on the mechanical systems of a Swedish Gripen. If Canada tries to compromise by running a mixed or dual-generation fleet, buying a few F-35s to make America happy, while purchasing Gripens to save money and create domestic jobs, the system faces total collapse. The deputy commander of NORAD, a Canadian lieutenant general, explicitly warned that managing a dual-generation fleet under current personnel conditions would be an absolute nightmare. The military simply does not have the bodies to run two entirely separate training pipelines, supply chains, and maintenance crews at the same time. This fighter jet debate is about far more than just purchasing military hardware. It is a fundamental look at how a middle power like Canada asserts its independence when living right next door to a global superpower. For the United States, Canada's hesitation is seen as a direct breach of trust, an economic loss for their defense sector, and a technical weak spot in continental defense networks. But for Canada, this procurement stall is a calculated, protective move. It is an attempt to ensure that billions of taxpayer dollars benefit local workers rather than disappearing into the American military-industrial complex, all while forcing Washington to compromise on trade. Ottawa is holding its ground, asserting that they will make the final decision on their own timeline. Whether they choose the American stealth giant or the Swedish alternative, Canada has proven that it is willing to disrupt Washington's plans to protect its own national interests. To help visualize how these different procurement paths affect both national budgets and operational capabilities, you can use the interactive comparison model below. Adjust the variables to see how changes in lifecycle maintenance, fleet composition, and domestic job creation alter the total value of the defense contract.